My new downstairs neighbor made the manager harass me. I hope he likes being woken up at 2 a.m. every night. I've lived in the same apartment with my boyfriend for almost 4 years. It's not the best apartment, but I love the location. I've never really had any problems here. I'm a quiet neighbor that stays to myself. My new downstairs neighbor has made several stupid complaints. Like complaints me running my garbage disposal. But the most recent one was ridiculous. He went and told management that there's been issues with my balcony. I got a call last week asking if I've been throwing anything over my balcony. I told the manager absolutely not. There's plants down below, so I had dumped a water bottle off into the plants before, but that's not harming anyone. Because of this call, I went out to my balcony to investigate. I noticed my flower vase had fallen over and some water may have spilled down. Not too big of a deal. There wasn't too much water in the vase when the wind knocked it over. I think this is the end of that silly complaint, but I was wrong. The weekend passes and I get a nasty notice on my door. The notice said pet violation for not picking up after my dog, $50 fine, and stating I'm at risk of getting my lease terminated because of my violations. The only problem is, I don't have a dog. I emailed the property manager and said, I do not have a dog. Therefore, I'm not paying this fine. She sends back a ridiculous email stating that she's received several complaints. I only have one downstairs neighbor about urine coming from my balcony, so she assumed I was letting my dog, that I don't have, pee on my balcony. Then she says since I don't have a dog, that means me or my boyfriend are peeing on our balcony, and that I'm still in violation of my lease. This was just comical at this point. My boyfriend and I have never done this. We've never had any complaints in our 4 years here. It just so happens as soon as I got a new downstairs neighbor, the complaints came rolling in. Here's where the petty revenge kicks in. I work night shift, so I don't go to bed until around 6 a.m. Every morning around 6 a.m., I hear my new neighbor leaving for work. My boyfriend and I decided to incorporate a new 2 a.m. workout when I get home from work, consisting of jumping jacks, running in place, and all sorts of fun stuff just for my lovely downstairs neighbor. I've informed the leasing office that I won't be renewing my lease in December due to this. The next 3 months for my new neighbor is going to be hell. I hope he enjoys it. Put a lien on my neighbors for not being able to pay an illegal special assessment? I'll put a lien on your $20 million mansion. This may be the most petty thing I have ever done in my life. I'm a pretty petty person, and I also believe in malicious compliance, but this takes the cake. So I bought a condo in a building in a large city in the US about 2.5 years ago. The building has an HOA that we all pay into monthly. Since I've lived here, the building has rapidly deteriorated, and we have all hired an attorney for a class action style lawsuit. I'm talking broken elevators, broken rooftop AC units. The pool was empty for 4 months during the summer, etc. The people in the building are great though, and we are a friendly bunch. Last year, I took the HOA to small claims court because they failed to provide financial documents that show us how our fees are being spent. As this is a legal requirement for all HOAs in my state, I won the case and was awarded the $30 filing fee plus $1, symbolic. I sued for documents, not money. The fact that they can't provide the docs as they are legally required to do is a separate issue among others, including possible criming that we've hired the attorneys for. I have asked the HOA to pay the $31 to me, and the president of the HOA wants to either meet me somewhere private to give it to me, or he wants to mail me a satisfaction of judgment form, have me sign it, and mail it back to him, and then he will mail me a check. No to both. 3 days after I won the case, the HOA announced that they were going to charge us all a special assessment of about $1,000 each and an increase in our monthly dues of 10%. In my state, a membership vote gets triggered if you charge a special assessment that brings the building more than 5% its yearly income, which means 51% of the owners must approve of the assessment for it to take effect. As this $$ is about 20% of our yearly income, a vote should have taken place. When we asked about this vote, the HOA said that it was being made under an emergency clause, which means that the membership vote doesn't have to take place. The emergency? Fixing the elevator that broke on December 24, 2021. The spirit of the emergency clause is for things like fire, earthquake, flood, etc., not a broken elevator that has been broken for a year already. When there was understandable pushback, the HOA sent out a little email stating that anyone who didn't pay the assessment would have a lien put on their unit. The liens came down yesterday to those that couldn't pay $1,000 on short notice. Our attorneys told us that even though the money is in dispute, we still have to pay it, and I did pay mine. But we also have a lot of retirees/lower income people in the building. The HOA president's house is currently on the market for $20 million. I just got back from the courthouse where I filed a $31 lien against it for $140, clouding its title. It's a matter of principle, not money. Now the title can't change hands until he pays me my $31, and I am perfectly within my rights to collect on a judgment owed. Smiley face. Edit. I will for sure keep you guys updated after the attorneys do their thing. That might be a story for PettyRevenge though. Edit 2. Some confusion here. I initially filed a small claim with the HOA as defendant. The small claim judge determined that was incorrect and said I should sue the individual as the president of the HOA and made me amend the case. Therefore, the defendant in the whole case was the one individual person. And therefore he is responsible for the $31, and I can exercise my right to put a lien on his home in my effort to collect. I can only put a lien against the defendant, and the defendant is a person. I cannot put a lien against the HOA because they were not the defendant in the case. The courts already determined that the person owes me money. I don't need to continue to argue a case Eve already won. Edit 3. Wow, this blew up. And with that, so many PPL accusing me of lying because they don't understand our legal system. Thank you to all who are supporting my efforts. We hope to have these PPL overthrown and in prison hopefully by the end of the year. We've turned over all we have to our attorneys who are the best HOA attorneys in LA. We will get these people. Little sis isn't my mother. Well, I'm not hers either. So a few weeks ago, my brother, sister, and myself, all in our early to mid-20s, took a little siblings vacation to California for a week. First time we've ever done anything like this. So a few nights into the trip, we went to a basketball game in Sacramento after a day where we had been drinking on and off. As we took our seats, I took my jacket off and placed it on my seat. Knowing I have a penchant for being somewhat forgetful, I asked my sister if she could remind me about it as we left, to which she looked absolutely disgusted and remarked, "I'm not your mother." Well, sheesh, we were having a very nice trip to this point, and I had no clue that kind of reaction was coming. But whatever, I figured she was cranky or something and let it go. Well, wouldn't you know, a few nights later we had gone out to eat, and she was the first one to stand up and walk away from the table, leaving her purse on her seat. I did what any responsible older brother would do and quickly snatched it up and hid it inside of my jacket. After we had walked about 7 to 8 blocks away from the restaurant, I made some remark about how weird someone else's purse looked, and she immediately realized what she had forgotten and began running back towards the restaurant. I filled my brother in, and we took a nice casual walk back to the restaurant where my sister was freaking out because her purse wasn't there. I simply held up her purse, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "I'm not your mother." It was gloriously cathartic. I scammed a scammer. I was contacted by an obvious scammer the other day. They asked for $160, and I went along with it. I got their Cash App and sent them $1 instead of $160, lulling them into a false belief that they are smart and I am dumb. They were all like, "Lol, wrong amount, but I got the dollar you sent. You can send me $159 and it will still be fine." So I typed in $159 on Cash App, then pressed request instead of send. Pretty sure they didn't read it. They definitely just clicked accept instead of decline, and I proceeded to block the low-life scammer $159 richer. Teacher denies bathroom privilege. Student asserts his dominance. I originally posted this as a comment on another post, but my so thought it was worth sharing as a standalone. I'm adding a bit more detail and correcting some spelling and grammar. Also, posting from mobile, so apologies for formatting. Context: this happened in the early 90s, and at the time the teacher had been teaching for 30-plus years. It was a rural area, so many of my friends' parents had also suffered through at least 1 year of primary school with this awful woman. I've seen a grown woman cry recounting memories of her experiences. She was really that bad. My second-grade teacher took pride in being a mean old cunt to her students. Wielding control over our tiny little bladders was something that gave her a particular satisfaction. One day during cursive lessons, this kid named Joseph asked to use the bathroom. She told him he should have used the bathroom during morning recess and would have to wait until lunch. A little while later, he started squirming in his seat and again asked to use the bathroom, this time with more urgency. At this point, our teacher starts berating the kid by telling him he's a little baby for not holding his bladder like a big boy and suggesting that he should wear diapers. Joseph gets tired of her shit, stands up from his seat, stares her directly in the eye, and proceeds to unleash the most epic man-sized piss he could muster. As fate would have it, he was wearing those mesh material basketball shorts, so the piss just flowed unobstructed down his legs and pooled on the carpet beneath him. A wave of giggling quickly spread through the classroom, which was basically the second-grade equivalent of a slow clap. Our teacher just stood there dumbfounded for a moment before grabbing Joseph by the arm and dragging him off to the principal's office. As they exited the room, Joseph glanced over his shoulder with a big grin on his face. A legend was born that day, and we all enjoyed our newfound bathroom privileges for the remainder of the school year. Teacher retired the following year. You want to wear tough guys' pants? Good luck cleaning them tomorrow. I work as a bartender in a small cocktail bar for some time now, and I'm usually chill. But bullies can still push my buttons in a wrong way. Before starting, I may be in the wrong for doing this, but it is what it is. A week ago, a bunch of guys came for a few. They seemed like okay dudes, early 20s, but the group dynamic was kinda off. Introducing the main antagonist. Obnoxious guy, too loud, snapping his fingers at me when ordering. Don't snap fingers at bartenders, kids, we're not dogs. Punching his friends in the shoulders all the time. A sportier, really aggressive version of a David Spade character he was. Next to David Spade, sat the victim of most of his playful teasings. Silently enduring his shit, I really felt sorry for this fellow. He wasn't a drinker, but he looked like he would rather be drinking distilled devil's piss than continue sitting next to this macho maniac. He was really uncomfortable. David continued to bug him to take a shot at least. Come on, one with me. Don't be a pussy, a bitch. Until, after a whole night of persuasion, finally my dude waved the white flag. Okay, let's do one shot together, then leave me be. Two of your most fucked up shots, Spade shouted, snapping his fucking fingers, while I imagined snapping his fucking neck. Oh, you'll get a fucked up shot, buddy. I made this 2-layered shots, but while looking almost the same, they were different. David got stuff like red Jacksonville absinthe 75% alcohol, Stro 80% alcohol, Tabasco 110% flaming diarrhea, really nasty business altogether. Another guy got mostly syrups, juices. Harmless stuff. They looked almost identical. Red absinthe can pass visually as a cranberry juice, Stro as a syrup from brown sugar, Sambuca as anything colorless, etc. They took their shots and all hell broke loose. Other guy chugged his shot like a champion, not even flinching. Why would he? He drank juice. But David Spade. Boy, oh boy. He looked like he'd have a brain aneurysm. Tears pouring from eyes, coughing like his lungs want to come out. He had a face and a posture of a man who just got waterboarded with some sort of chili sauce. Other guy looked surprised until he caught a wink from me. But David Spade and the rest of the crew, now roaring with laughter about his misery, suspected nothing. They got their shots on the house. Poor dude was left alone, and David was a good boy for the rest of the night, deflatedly enduring small mockings from his fellows. Now, I may have used my powers in a wrong way, but this is the first and only time I messed with customers' drinks, and I regret nothing. He was rude, aggressive even, to everyone around him. Fuck you, sporty David Spade. Tilder in a bar where I work, punished a rude person by making him a hell shot. Edit. Was not expecting response of this magnitude. Thank you, you wonderful peoples. Your comments made my day, can't stop smiling like an idiot. Love my job, but there is always one guy out of 1,000 that'll try to mess everyone's day. And thanks for the gold. Someone is getting free shots in your name tomorrow. But the good kind. Thank you, kind sir. Edit 2. Holy Stro. Thanks for the second gold. Let me answer a few questions. No, they didn't tip at all. I work in Southern Europe. Tipping among locals is not a typical thing. I earn my pay from tourists, mainly Americans and Scandinavians. Me being from Europe is the reason why I didn't hear about cement mixers so far. And me being a faithful disciple of the craft is the reason why I tried my first cement mixer today. Boy, oh boy, did that come to bite me in the ass. Tofu. Here's a recipe for a fuck you. David Spade, equal parts of Sambuca Molinari, red absinthe Jacksonville, 75%, freshly squeezed lime juice and Austrian liquor Stro, 80%. Add Tabasco at will. You can mix it with lime juice. Use a bar spoon if you want to make a layered shot. Stro is placed at the top. Because it's the best burning alcohol, you can make a flaming shot out of it. A burned David Spade, if you like. Disclaimer. I have nothing against real David Spade. I like him actually. But his sporty doppelganger deserves a kick in the butt. My aunt ruined my dinner, so I ruined hers. My petty revenge story is a little gross, so I apologize in advance. I have a sensitivity/intolerance to most meats. Red meat is the worst, and beef is particularly bad. Doctors recommended I try to get my protein from alternative sources if possible, So I've happily been a vegetarian since I was 13 or so. When I was younger, my aunt did not believe the doctors and thought I was just being fussy. We come from a meat and potatoes town, so she had plenty of friends backing her up on this. This is the same aunt who convinced my parents I was faking asthma. Turns out, I wasn't. Shocker. And also refused to get her own daughter glasses because she thought she just wanted them for attention. She later discovered her daughter's eyesight was atrocious. Another shocker, I know. The whole family regularly had dinner together, taking turns hosting. When it was my aunt's turn to host, she assured me my burger was meatless. As you probably guessed, it was not. I was starving that night and gulped down my beef burger first. My aunt was smiling, and I thought it was simply because I liked her cooking. Looking back, I realized her little smirk was because she thought she had caught me in a lie or achieved whatever her endgame was. Well, a few minutes passed and I got that familiar, unpleasant feeling in my stomach. It was then that I realized what she had done and why she was smiling. When I eat meat, I almost always get sick. I just can't hold it down. So when it came time to kneel before the porcelain throne, I decided to stay put. I instead took aim at my aunt, who was seated beside me at the head of the table. I quit my job of 6 years just to prove to senior management how useless and incompetent my manager was, and it worked. I started my last job in 2017. I was a part-time warehouse worker who over a few years was promoted into a transport admin/management role. Myself and another colleague ran our department between us, only really reporting to our then line manager if we needed support with any part of our job, or time off, etc. But other than that, he trusted us completely to run things. It wasn't without its stressful days, but we had a really good thing going. Then in 2021, the business made some changes, moved our then line manager onto different departments, and got a new, designated manager just to manage us too in our department. We were naturally quite bitter about it, but nevertheless thought we'd give him a chance. He turned out to be an absolute control freak and a bully. But he was strange. He could be very supportive one minute, then a manipulative bully the next. He loved poking fun out of the fact I had a car accident last year. He loved solely targeting me for the bad jobs and loved causing trouble between me and other colleagues. Then in March this year, my girlfriend fell ill whilst pregnant and was forced to give birth to our son 6 weeks prematurely. It was quite an awful, traumatic time, and I ended up having 3 weeks off work. When I returned, I had a mountain of work to catch up on that nobody covered in my absence, followed by me trying to catch up on it, and my manager pulling me away to do other projects for him, when his other 2 staff members weren't doing anything, then when my work was late, was forever kicking off at me that I couldn't manage my time properly, etc., etc. Then in May, he made a major mistake and pinned the blame on me for it. It caused issues between me and 2 colleagues I had to work closely with, and I was threatened with disciplinary action. Then I just got thinking to myself, without me running his department, he is nothing. Without me, he wouldn't have a job. Without me, he wouldn't be able to explain what was going on with his department to senior management. How I ran his department for him on half of his salary, he takes all the glory and we get all of the grief. I had one last run-in with him over this mistake he'd made and handed my formal notice in to him the following day. It was funny over those 4 weeks of serving my notice, just watching him slowly take over my responsibilities and struggling with them. Those responsibilities that he often told me, I don't even know what you do during the day. He had to then do the horrible jobs he used to pile on me. And on my final day in June, I told my fellow colleagues that I'll give him 3 months before he either quits or gets fired. Within the first few weeks, the department massively failed their monthly audit, which sparked attention of company directors, who were sent in to investigate as this had never happened before. Then bang, on a month later, I was on holiday and had one of the senior managers ringing me and texting me asking for passwords for systems, as my line manager had gone on holiday and hadn't organized anything. I ignored him because I didn't work there anymore and I was on holiday. Then he kept continuing to make mistakes. He hadn't ordered essential items, which caused trouble for the site. He didn't have a clue about the job in question as I originally was out to prove. Then a month after that, he was suspended from his duties pending further investigation, as management finally realized he couldn't do his job in question. Month after that, management claimed he quit with immediate effect. I think he was fired. But either way, my 3 months prediction was right, and he couldn't run that shift without me. It really is petty revenge quitting a job to prove a point, but it proved the point. Good riddance. I now run my own business, have a much better work-life balance, earning more than I could ever dream of in that place, and life is fantastic.